All right, we're on. So my next guest is a DJ living in Washington, D.C. He goes by Nate Geezie, DJ Nate Geezie. I found him doing a live stream set on Instagram 10 a.m. Sunday mornings on his weekly morning inspiration show. It's about 90 minutes a week with a message of love and support. Great songs, great extended jams. He talks over beats, but not too much. He's available on SoundCloud and Spotify. We have plenty to talk about. Please welcome DJ Nate Geezie, aka Nate Gilbert. Uh, hey man.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, thanks for coming on.
No problem.
All right, very cool.
Recording?
We're recording, man. Yep, we're all good.
I was gonna move this big ugly iron out the way.
Let me see it. Where is it? Yeah, right on. All right, cool. So we'll be an action shot. You got a bookshelf back there. What's in there?
Man, to be honest, long time ago in a former life, I used to work at XM Radio.
Oh wow.
And the NPR station, they would get book submissions and all that stuff, and they would just all the extra books they would leave it in a bucket by the studio door, and I just used to take everything in the bucket, like
Wow.
stuff I had no intention of reading, just
Right.
free books,
Totally.
and I would take it. So
I worked at
stuff there I haven't even read, to be honest.
I worked at a bookstore back in the day. We would get advanced copies, and also we would get paperbacks that we just had to rip the covers off for some reason. You couldn't really return them. And so like what's that?
So you couldn't resell them? Was that the reason?
Yeah, exactly. So you rip the paperbacks off the covers. And so I would take home several copies of the same book that were with the paperback cover ripped off, just because I was like, oh cool, like free book, blah blah blah. Yeah. So I hear you on that. So that's pretty cool about your other life. We might have to come back to that at some point, but let's start with that you're sort of based in DC, because I don't know much about DC geography. So what part of the city are you in?
I work in DC. A lot of the clubs and stuff that I DJ at are in DC. Mm-hmm. I live probably about 8 minutes outside of the city in Maryland.
Wow.
And I don't know if you've heard the term DMV as it relates to Washington, D.C., but that basically means D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. So they're all connected. D.C. is just, a city. It's fairly small, and it's kind of snuggled between Maryland and Virginia. So most of the people who work in D.C., they live in Maryland or Virginia.
Wow.
So, the Pentagon, the D.C. airport is in Virginia. The Redskins stadium, well, they're not the Redskins anymore. The Washington football team stadium is in Maryland. So the whole area, is connected.
Wow, that's really cool. So what's some other DMV lore that I might not know?
To be honest, I wasn't born here. So I don't want to get myself in trouble. I was actually born and raised in Indiana, Indianapolis, Indiana. But as soon as I was able to get out of there, I got out of there.
You're kind of making me curious. Why get out of there?
You ever been to Indiana?
Nope. You got me there. All right. All right. So how long have you been in DC for? Or sorry, the DMV for?
Since 2003, honestly. So.
Okay. So
pretty much all my adult life, so I graduated college, and about 4 days later, I put my stuff in storage and I was ready to get the heck out of Indiana, you know.
Wow. So so you chose the DMV? You chose DC and stuff?
No, I went to Philly first. I had a friend who lived in Philly,
Yeah,
and
Philly I've always wanted to try, honestly.
it didn't take me long to realize that Philly was not going to work for me.
Yeah,
It was an extreme culture shock coming from more laid back,
yeah,
quieter, cleaner, slower pace of life type area that I was
yeah.
used to just people stacked on top of each other and dirty and trash and all that stuff.
Wow.
So
Okay. All right.
the
So
music
Phil
in Philly was good. Philly has, dope music and dope culture, but just the city of itself, it was a culture shock. And after about 10 months, I made my way down to DC.
No, I hear you, man. I've definitely lived in some spots where, like exactly that. I would have stayed for the music or something like that, but the actual day to day was no good. Yeah, so that's cool. And so you made it out to DC. So you've been there for a long time, like you said. So I'm wondering, what do you kind of do? Do you do crazy trips to New York City or anything like that with your friends, stuff like that?
No, when I was living in Philly, I used to go up to New York a lot for
Right.
shows.
Yeah.
Uh, Once I got down to DC, um, I kind of got wrapped up in DC life and DC culture. Uh, I found myself working at XM Radio not too long after I started working here, and that right now it's Sirius XM, but in the early 2000s there were two separate companies, and
Oh wow.
it was the early days of XM Radio and constant events and artists coming through, and so I had a pretty full cultural experience just going to work, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. I used to work at a stage theater, like new shows every week. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, but I mean nothing like XM, of course. And I forgot that they had actually merged. So let's double back and like get your sort of origin story. How did you start your DJ career? What inspired you to move into that?
Well, this is always painful to recall, but I grew up in a really, really strict household, and
Hmm.
my mom is super cool now. So she's super cool. But I was her firstborn, so I got the worst of it in terms of strictness. And of
Yeah.
course, as she had subsequent kids, she cared less and less about what they did, which is always fun to watch. But I had it really strict. I wasn't allowed to certain things I couldn't watch, certain things I couldn't listen to.
Mhm.
So I had, behind her back, formulated a pretty sizable CD and tape collection filled with, Snoop Dogg, Little Kim, Biggie,
Cool.
Easy E, pretty much everything you don't want your child listening to. Long story short, she found out about it and took, my whole CD and tape collection and dumped it into one of the rivers. And
Wow. Just actually in the river.
yeah,
It's not a metaphor. It's you dumped it in the river.
yeah, yeah.
Brutal.
I
That's the
mean,
word.
of course, she didn't take me with her when she did it because I probably would have either jumped in to the river or broken down and cried.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I mean that would have been extra traumatizing. If you saw your stuff floating away in the river. That's true. Yeah. What's like a CD or movie or TV show that like you saw one of your siblings just watching and you're like, what's going on?
uh, More than that, it was just kind of how they used to go back and forth and argue, with my mom and dad about
Right.
not wanting to do stuff or them asking them to do stuff. And they like, they're having like this long discussion and dialogue, and I'm like, what is this? Like you're
There's a
giving them an option.
conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a conversation happening. They have an option of whether or not they want to do this. Like I'm sitting there looking like, what's happening here? Like this is not. These are not the people that raised me.
Right.
So, and they told me like, we're tired. We're tired. We don't.
It's a
We're
hard thing
tired.
to argue with someone saying they're tired. Pretty much works every time. It's funny, man. All right, so
Well,
yeah,
to go back to the CDs,
yeah,
I made a pledge. When I get some money, I'm gonna go all out. I'm gonna buy my own DJ equipment. I'm gonna buy all the music I lost and blah blah
uh,
blah. And true enough, when I graduated, I got some money for some of my graduation gifts.
cool,
I went bought turntables. I hit up the record stores and start rebuilding my records, like actual
nice.
record stores, like
Yeah, oh,
Beastie
I know what
Boys.
you mean, man.
Yeah, when Beastie Boys, "Hello Nasty" was one of the first records that I purchased.
Uh,
Just I wanted to get re-immersed in the culture to kind of make up for what I lost, if that makes any sense.
yeah. Did you have any good like thrift store finds? Like this is $1, and then like just really quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I can't tell you what they are now, 20 years later, but
No,
yeah.
I hear you. I was just curious. Yeah, that's always a great thing for the record culture to, oh, I got this $3, blah blah blah. Very cool, man. So you wanted to be a DJ since you were a little kid, basically.
Yeah, I wanted to be involved in music in whatever aspect I could. I had a brief stint where I was rapping, but I got booed off stage at a show at a talent contest. So
Yeah. Well,
DJ was the path of least resistance.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. No, I hear you on that. I mean, but I listen to your music on SoundCloud and Spotify, and you've got some great tunes, man. So, and
Thank you.
plus, I obviously heard your sets. You have your morning inspiration show Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Um, I just heard the first one, or my first one on Valentine's Day, and that was really cool. You were saying some really cool stuff over the beats, like before some of the songs. So that was really quality stuff. I am
Thank you.
wondering, I want to learn a little more about DC. What were some of your, or the DMV, what were some of your spots that you were DJing at before the lockdown? Like, did you have like a regular thing at this place or blah blah blah?
The thing about clubs in DC, and I don't really know if it's the same in other major cities, but
Hmm.
the turnover at some of these clubs is really quick. Like they'll change ownership and then they'll change name and all this other stuff. So a club might have a good run for maybe 2 years, and then they're changing ownership, and whoever owned that club is now going to another club on the other part of the city. So all the DJs and all the people are following him over there. So it's always this revolving door, and you have a couple of staple clubs that are just these have been in the community for a while, but a lot of clubs just 1 or 2 years, well maybe not 1, 2 to 3 years. But one of the staple clubs that I DJ at a lot is called Little Miss Whiskey's. It's in the area of the city called H Street, which is a kind of a historic area. Um,
Yeah.
there's a couple more clubs in that area that I DJ'd at, because the whole street for a good 5 or 6 blocks is clubs and restaurants. So
Right.
I've DJ'd all up and down uh, that area, but like I said, a lot of the clubs have come and gone. Um, there's a place called Rock and Roll Hotel that I DJ'd at a couple times. There's a place called Red Rocks that I used to DJ at a lot before they changed ownership, and you know,
And you
started.
just didn't know those guys and stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
how the game goes. Um,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a place in another it's historic entertainment part of the city called Adams Morgan, and I DJed at a place called Heaven and Hell. And I don't know what imagery comes to mind when you think of that, but whatever it is probably correct. I DJed there for probably a year and a half. I've seen, someone get thrown through a window.
Wow. And
There were.
all right, tell some more about seeing someone get thrown through a window where you're just like, oh no. It's just like back to it.
If there's ever a good reason to get thrown through a window, this is one of them. From what I could see, a certain young man was being aggressive towards a female customer,
Wow.
and it either hit her or went back like he was going to hit her, and security basically took him and threw him through the window.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Yeah.
lights on, music off, they sweep up the glass, lights back down, music back on.
Where the security guys kind of like, it was really nice to just have a clear cut, like they knew they had to throw the guy through the window, like, because sometimes it might be a little more like, you're not sure if you have to go that far, like, but this was easier to figure out.
I've never thrown anyone through a window, but if that's kind of a thing on your bucket list, I guess that's a good time to get that out the way. I
It's
don't know if
not
you can hear
necessary.
my dog barking in the background.
What's that?
So I don't know if you can hear my dog barking in the background or not.
No, it's not a thing. Actually, the wind here was blowing so hard. I actually thought it was gonna come through on your end. Yeah, it's like a stormy gray New England day up here. Um, so wow, that's nuts, man. You've had some good times, of course. I mean, like playing late into the night and stuff. Any weddings, bat mitzvahs, stuff like that?
Uh, yeah, yeah. Um, I find that some of the events that I guess would bring me the most joy are kind of events that I curated myself or friends of mine curated. Um, the club scene, it is what it is, and
Mhm.
generally you're there to play a specific type of music or to cater to a specific type of audience, which is cool. I do it. I'm very good at it. But some of the events that I DJ that either myself or friends of mine have put together, that's where I kind of find the most joy. Um, there would actually, I'm wearing one of the shirts. There's a designer in
Nice.
the DC area. This is the I'm confusing myself looking at the this is the DC flag right here.
Cool. Right
So
on.
they have a whole line of shirts that say love.
Uh-huh.
Um, so they started in a series of events called Love Fest, where
Wow.
basically, they would bring together basically just creatives from all over the city. They would, sell their shirts. They would have DJs. So it would be four DJs, all three of the other DJs, good friends of mine. And
Hmm.
like you said, just partying into the night, you know, a good family vibe,
Yeah.
positivity, sometimes proceeds going towards different organizations, stuff like that. Like those are the things that bring me the most fulfillment. Um, you know, no, I have
Yeah.
a ton of drunk club
Yeah.
stories, but it's none of that, there. It's just
Right.
it's all family, it's all community, it's all love, and those are the things that bring me the most fulfillment.
Right on, man. That was great. Yeah, thanks for getting into that. Very cool. So since you're kind of based around the DC area, especially with everything going on, I thought, I'd be really sort of missing out if I didn't ask you a few politics questions. So
All
we'll
right.
try them out.
I'll
Um,
do my best not to embarrass myself.
Now, they're pretty general, I think, but obviously, we're going into what's been happening throughout the summer. You know, um, in June of 2020, the Black Lives Matter Plaza was constructed in Washington, D.C., which features the words Black Lives Matter painted in the street. And I'm wondering how that actually felt as a resident of the DMV. Did it feel cheap, or were you like, did you feel good about it? Were you,
I haven't actually been down there due to, my fear of catching COVID.
yeah.
um, Me personally, I know there's been a lot of back and forth about whether or not this matters or whether or not it's cheap symbolism. I myself thought it was great. Um, I don't think it's the end all be all. Um,
Mhm.
I think we need more than symbolism, but I also do think we need symbolism. Like we've had centuries of symbols of oppression and you know all that stuff. I think something like this, means something.
That's a great answer, man. Like, a lot of, like, because when you're in activism, like, it's pretty much a mantra, like, it's not enough, it's not enough. And, while that is kind of true to a degree, it does help to kind of, acknowledge a victory when you get one.
Yeah,
Um,
and as an artist myself, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way when people kind of uh trying to think of a word other than a curse word. When people kind of pooped
Yeah,
on
it's like a mild rule for curse words. It's like, if someone says one, I don't really do anything, but yeah,
when
it's
people
up to
kind of
you.
pooped on, the whole idea of Black Lives Matter, Plaza, whatever. And to me, those are artists. Those are artists and creatives, and those are their work. And whether it's a song or a
Mhm.
painting on a canvas or a painting in the street or it's a dance, like this is someone's art and creativity. And while this one song is not going to fix centuries of systematic oppression, it's someone's creativity, and it can you know you have no idea what the effects of that will be. So I just don't like the idea of, as a creative, people pooping on other people's creativity.
That's a great answer. It's really kind of, I feel the same. Actually, to be honest, that's one of the ideas that really sort of got me out of bed post COVID, was just, you don't know how people will, react to your art. You have to put it out there and see. you
Yeah.
know uh, and so that's a great segue too. I wanted to ask about your 2020 single. It's called Brianna with Dior Ashley Brown. It has the hook, say her name with a smile. It really is an excellent song. Every artist has ideas about the songs they want to do. What got you to take this from a concept to really doing it, and seeing the reaction that it would get?
Well, the project that was on was my second project of 2020,
Hmm.
and the first project was all instrumentals, and the
Yeah.
second project, which was called A Distant Summer, which was basically just kind of an encapsulation of just all the craziness that we had gone through, from you know the uh, the racial tone of the country to um, the pandemic and all the foolishness involved with that. I felt like there were certain things that needed to be said that couldn't fully be captured by just me as the producer beat maker. So I reached out to a couple artists um, to try to collaborate and use their words to push forward uh, the feelings that I had created and with the music and the beats. Um, And when I sent that to Dior Ashley Brown, she's an amazing artist. She does a lot here in DC. I should have talked more about that when you asked about DC events.
Hmm.
But I sent it to her, and probably 20 minutes later, she was like, I got something.
Yeah.
Like, she was like, the music and the beat just speaks to me so much. And we got that done in about 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah. Like
Right on.
she wrote it like the first day and then recorded it and sent it to me probably the next day. So
That's a great story, man. Have you ever worked with her besides that song?
not in any official capacity. Um, as a DJ, I've DJed events that she has been a part of,
Hmm.
and she can freestyle for hours.
Wow.
So, I've had events. I've had events here at my house where, we'll just be vibing, jam
Yeah.
session, and she'll grab the mic and she'll just start rapping and we're DJing, and it's just like, yeah, she's a very, very dope creative spirit.
All right, Dior Ashley Brown, good to know. Is there a favorite event that she threw that sticks out?
Probably this thing called Big Ugly Truck. If you look it up, you'll probably be able to find something about it. So I forget the guy's name. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
It's really as simple as he had this hideous looking old truck, and he would pull up in neighborhoods
Hmm.
and play music from out the truck, and
Nice.
dance parties would spontaneously happen around
Wow.
the truck. And from what I remember, he would do that in various neighborhoods and parts of the city, and it would turn into a party. So they took that a little further, and they started inviting DJs to come and spin on the back of the truck. And they would, I think they kind of settled in the U Street area. I don't know if I mentioned that before. That's another main entertainment spot in the city. And parties would happen like just in this busy section of town, people going back and forth. People would stop and come over to the truck and just dance and party
Right
in the
on.
middle of the street. Um, and I've had the pleasure of spinning for Big Ugly Truck once. A lot of my friends have done it as well. So, I've attended when they spun, and it's one of the most organic, beautiful experiences that you can think of.
I love it, man. If this thing
People
ever,
all races, all colors, all ages, like if they just happen to be outside walking by, like they're coming over to the truck and it's just a big dance party in the middle of the street or on the sidewalk near the truck. It's so dope. If you can like look up
yeah.
footage of it if you can.
So, do you think that's the answer? Just a big ugly truck? That's
Yeah,
great, man.
I think I did one of the last ones that they had before the truck kind of just passed away. Yeah.
Well, you can
So
find a new big ugly truck, but that's a great one, man. I hope they do a big ugly truck revival. If this thing ever dies down, I'll be out there. So slightly still in the politics realm, I guess. There's a new movie out called One Night in Miami. I was wondering if you'd seen it.
yes, I've seen it. I've seen it.
All right, right. So I'm gonna recap for people watching. Hopefully, in the movie, there is a scene where one of the characters puts on the Bob Dylan record of his song "Blowin' in the Wind." It says, "How many roads must a man walk down before you can call him a man?" The characters in the hotel room are all black historical figures, basically saying, why didn't we say that first? Like, why didn't we, make this song going, how many roads must a man walk down? Is that something you've ever felt personally? Does it bother you when an artist, a white artist, makes a claim like that?
Uh, what claim specifically?
Just like just saying something about sort of like I suppose like a racial divide, or like um or just you know yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can't think of any specific statement or song uh,
Hmm.
that a white artist has, made or come out with that I can be like, that's the one or whatever like that. But just in life and living, I've come to recognize that racism is a white person's problem, if that makes any sense. Um, just like, you know, when I'm talking to, other men about, sexism, like sexism is a male problem. Like we spend all this time telling women what they need to do to protect themselves and all this other stuff, but the people who need to become aware and change their behavior are the men. Um,
Yeah.
so I kind of feel the same way when it comes to some of the racial issues. Um, in this grand awakening that happened in the wake of George Floyd, like this wasn't an awakening you know, for Black Americans. Um, so the awakening and the statements and the action needs to happen on the part of our white brothers and sisters. And you know, I don't know if you talk to someone else and they'll be as friendly or or whatever. I guess some people may have tension regarding that, or they may not want white people involved in certain ways. But it's been my stance that the the people that need to kind of stand up and take action are our white brothers and sisters.
Well, thank you for your take. I really appreciate it. What are, um, uh, what comes to mind, if like, say if you heard a white person complaining about racism in your head, is it like, well, you're white, you can do this, this, and this? Like, what are, what are those things? You don't have to answer, by the way. Like, it is, you know.
Your screen froze for like a millisecond.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Uh,
repeat that for me.
yeah. So it's like, say like, like, say if you heard like a say if you heard a white person wanting to do something about racism, or complaining about it, in your mind, you're thinking, uh, there's a bunch of stuff you can do. Maybe, I don't know how you think, but like,
Yeah,
like,
that's what.
like, what comes to mind when you're just like, just like figure it out. Like, like what do you want to see white brothers and sisters do?
Uh, well, without knowing their whole life situation and where they live and where they work and who they're around, in this hypothetical situation.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally hypothetical. Yeah,
the
hypothetical.
the most important thing they could do is to use their voice. Um, and again, this kind of mirrors conversations that I've also had with men regarding rape culture and sexism. Life is going to present you with opportunities to take a stand. Like um, there's so much, misogyny and sexism, and just in your everyday conversations, someone's going to say something stupid, whether it's at the barbershop or, your uncle, your drunk uncles. Like someone's going to say something stupid, and
Yeah,
if you miss this opportunity, like don't worry, life is going to present you with another one. So there's always going to be opportunity for you to stand up and let whoever know in whatever situation, like, no, this isn't okay. Um, so the same thing, I think, can be said for racism. And again, without knowing everyone's family history and just how racist their grandparents may be, or whatever, there are going to
mm,
be opportunities for you to stand up and make your voice heard, to let whoever is the offending party know that this isn't okay. And then beyond that, you know, and again, that's whether that's in person on Facebook, when one of your middle school buddies who you haven't seen in 20 years says something dumb in a post,
Yeah.
And then aside from that, you can advocate for inclusion and voices. So if you're in a space where decisions are being made, you can ask, well, why aren't there any women here? Why aren't there any people of color here? Why aren't there any Black men and women here? Why aren't there any Asian men and women here? Why aren't there any Hispanic men and women here? Little things like that. Because I'm not white, but I imagine that white people are pretty comfortable operating in spaces where it's just them. And
I'm sure that is true. That must be true. It has to be. Yeah. So sorry, did I cut you off there?
I was just going to finish in saying, whether it's a board of a nonprofit, or you're writing for a movie or a TV show for a major network, the question needs to be, are all sides and perspectives being honored and represented?
All right. Thanks for all your time on that. Thank you. I don't think we'll linger there any longer. You gave great answers. So this is actually our 4th time capsule episode, where we sort of just record, and then it's sort of going to be released at a later kind of unknown date, almost like a roulette. So
2030.
What's that?
2030.
Yeah, 2030. That would be crazy. Actually, that kind of, I like to ask people about sort of time questions when I do a time capsule episode. And also, I imagine a DJ who spends part of his life looking for the extended version of popular songs might have some cool ideas about time. So do you have any like deep down perspectives about time and our impact over time?
Not really. Only just, the realization that it goes by pretty fast. Yeah, like there's a one of my well, first of all, the best hip hop group ever of all time is Outkast.
Okay, good to know. I'll write it
They're
down.
they're better at everything than everybody else, and that's just something I want you to know. So now that we got that out the way,
I'm glad I talked to you about this, because otherwise I wouldn't. This is awesome. I know the best group.
They have a song on their second album, ATLiens, and the song was called "Growing Old." And I'm trying to remember the lyric. Big Boy, he says, "Fridays are tight, but Saturday just makes it old." And as a DJ, like that always stuck out to me. My dog's making noises. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. It's all right. The dog is like, what's the dog's name? I think you're gonna have some curious dog.
He actually has an Outkast related name. His name is Benjamin Antoine. Named after the 2 members of Outkast. That's
Do you literally go Benjamin Antoine? Like when you
You should have saw his face when you said that. He looked up. No, we call him Benji for short. Or
right, cool.
Benji 3000.
Benji 3000, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I love that.
So Fridays are tight, but Saturday just makes it old. No matter how jamming the party was, no matter how wild and crazy it was, you're gonna wake up Saturday and whatever happens is gonna be old.
Whoa. That was good, man. Right on. Okay. Let's leave it there. I've done a bit of radio DJ work in the past as a volunteer. So I know one thing DJs are obsessed with is a good transition where you sort of move seamlessly from one song to the next. Do you still have moments where you're picking a new song in real time and the transition is perfect? You feel amazing?
Yeah, all the time. All the time.
You should have seen your face and you said, yeah. It was just like, yeah, of course I do. In your Valentine's Day morning show, which I couldn't stop listening to, by the way, you were actually encouraging other artists to put up links to their own work in the chat, which I don't think is something every artist would do necessarily. Was that easy for you to say? Did you sort of learn that behavior?
A lot of artists that I'm talking to are friends of mine. Like they've been to my house. Like we've done jam sessions together. Like we've, you know, traded songs back and forth. We've done, you know, been on the same bill at certain clubs. So these are my friends and my family. Um, so I'm basically, and to that end, like a lot of them don't do it. When I ask them to, I'm like, share your information, let people know where you're DJing at or where they can reach you. And most of them don't do it, and I don't know why. So I'm
Yep.
constantly trying to remind them, like, hey, because these are my friends. These are my DJ.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
operate in community together, and I want people to support them just as much as they support me.
big time.
I don't know why they don't do it. I don't know.
I'm gonna leave you with the last word on that. I could not agree more. You know I I I could go on for hours, but you pretty much nailed it. All right, so you put out a bunch of great music just this past year. What's next for you? You've got your morning show on Sundays. You've got a bunch of new releases. Are you plotting the next move?
Uh, I have ideas.
Mm,
I have ideas for projects and things that I want to do. Um, and I guess they kind of present themselves like empty cups, laying on a table. And it's just a matter of, as the year goes by and whatever flows from myself, create from my brain creatively, which cup I'll fill first. And that's not something that I could necessarily say first or
wow.
say, with any certainty. Um, I might wake up one morning and like an idea come to my head and I'll feel something on this cup and then
Man.
not come back to it again for like 3 months. you know,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
At least you know where the cup is, though, maybe, right?
so I have stuff that I'm working on that's just mine. I have projects that I'm working on that are collaborations with other people, and the collaborations are usually the most difficult because even if I get this energy spurt and fill it up, fill my part up, I still got to wait for the other people to do what they're supposed to do. So,
Yeah,
you know,
I hear you. How long have you had that analogy with the cups? That's pretty wild.
I made it up on the spot. I freestyled.
Okay. Oh man, that was great. Do you have any sort of do you have a couple fun XM stories then? Any like kind of cool people you saw, stuff like that?
The most fun XM story is probably when me and my friend, and she's actually a singer here in the DC area. Her name is Kia Bennett, a really dope singer, beautiful voice.
All right.
Me and her basically shared a cubicle for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Um, and this is like, from '04 to like '09. So she had gotten word that Taraji Henson was in the building doing the interview.
Oh wow.
So she basically, grabbed me out of my seat and we went upstairs to where the studios were and we walked into her interview live on air and sat down.
Do you remember the first thing she said after that? Was she like and then like get back into it, or
The whole thing was a blur.
yeah.
Yeah, I just remember the look on the radio host's face. His name is Cayman Kelly, and he's a very well respected DJ, from coast to coast. He's been DJing for a long time.
Okay.
And I just remember the look on his face, like, what are you guys doing in here?
Man, that was great, man. That was awesome. You've got this time with us on this podcast. Is there anything any stone unturned, anything you might want to mention, type of thing?
I kind of want to know about your podcast history and some of your podcast goals. I guess I should go listen to all of your podcasts to get that. But
yeah, wow, that's a great question. I just sort of I was just like sort of basically trying to rebuild, I guess, after the whole pandemic-ness, and so I love radio. I've been sort of vaguely involved with nonprofit radio here in Connecticut, on and off for many years, and so and also I do actually enjoy interviewing people to some degree. Actually, there was sort of a groundbreaking interview with Frank Sinatra way back when, called Frank Sinatra Had a Cold, and that was sort of the birth of sort of storytelling in interviews. So yeah, that's sort of what got me rolling, and then it really just all comes from radio, like sort of how I talk to people, basically. I love the programming aspect of radio, and yeah, so I'm based here in Connecticut. There's a famous nonprofit radio station in Bridgeport, 89.5 WPKM, the sound on the sound, streaming everywhere, live at wpkn.org. So thanks so much for asking me that, man. That's cool. That's pretty much where I'm at. So you're gonna be yeah, I put out the 8th episode today, and it's very different because it's with my friend who's like doing work to sort of deal with the forest fires in California with one national park. So it's a mixed group. It's gonna have sort of people from all walks of life, and yeah, I just want to sort of, it's just a great it's kind of like what you said about art before. It's like I don't necessarily know everything that's going to happen from having a podcast.
Yeah.
It's just a really interesting experiment, and I'm going to keep tuning into your morning show, by the way. And you release they're about 90 minutes long, and then you put them out on SoundCloud after the live stream.
Right.
So
let me ask you a question about Connecticut. So, before the pandemic and everything got shut down, like, where would you go? What spaces would you go to hear, dope music or anything like that? And were you going to the places where to hear top 40, or were you kind of looking for more eclectic, different styles of music, or does that exist where you are?
That is such a great question. That is a great question. A lot of my friends are even more like, all of my friends are pretty much music aficionados. But there's plenty of it's such a loaded question. There's 172 towns in Connecticut of just about to start with. So there are places in Connecticut I don't even know the names of. But basically New Haven is a big bad city for music. They have two big places, more than that probably, but they're called the State House and Cafe 9. And I will happily rep any others from the area. There's in Bridgeport, there's the Acoustic, and actually my very good friend Sam Hopkins, who is a DJ at WPKN 89.5. He puts up shows at the Acoustic to promote the program. And I'm actually there's two bars in New Milford, Fast Eddie's and O'Connor's, that have hosted live music. And my buddy Sam Hopkins was pretty deep into all of that. I actually don't know. I think he wants to get the Acoustic rolling again. WPKN is moving their offices to another location in Bridgeport, which is a whole epic thing. That's a great question, really loaded. But I will say, actually, in New Haven, starting with Cafe 9 and then at the State House, they were running this program of bringing really sort of like bands from other countries, basically, that I would have never heard of, bands from like Nigeria and Malta and all sorts of places. They started this series with them. This great band called Tal Nacional played at Cafe 9, and then a bunch of other bands in this series started coming in about once a month to play at the State House. And I was trying to go to as many of those as I could. The guys from Tal Nacional were so cool. One of them actually mentioned on stage that they're used to playing for like 5 hours, but in America they only have to play for 1 hour. Like so yeah, so it was the greatest live show that I've seen, except maybe for Charles Bradley and the Manhattan Street Band in Williamsburg. That was incredible. Hey, Nate, thanks so much.
Out of time. Yeah.
What's that?
I know we're running out of time, but
yeah,
thank you for that.
Thank you, man. This was really cool. We'll have to find a way to sort of do something like this again, man. Great job. We really gave people a nice kind of map of DC a little bit.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right, I'll let you go for now. I'll check in later. And yeah, have a good one, man. Definitely.
Thank you.
All right.